Hello, everyone. Welcome to an amazing episode of Outside the Studio. My name is Tessa. I am your host, as you most likely know, since you are now listening to this podcast. Welcome back to a great conversation today. We get to talk to Katie B Happyy, spelled with 2 Y's. I love this. Well, this is your pen name, right? Okay. And I'm sure there's a story behind this that we will dive into. I'd love to hear about it. So let me tell you a little bit about Katie, and then we'll jump into our amazing conversation. She's always taken inner transformation seriously and with a healthy dose of humor. And this comes through like 1,000-fold in your writing. But then you woke up in 2015 with Bell's palsy and couldn't move the right side of your face. And obviously, your spirit took a giant pause, but still you fought through giving up on society's definitions of beauty and and you became an international Lululemon model and ambassador. You were featured in NBC, CBS, and Shape magazine. And now your global company, Be Inspired, an LLC and 501c3, is a charity organization, has changed the thousands of lives across over 30 countries, helping broken badasses, which is a great term, recover from loss, rediscover their life, and find their calling. So Katie, thank you so much for being with us. Welcome to the show. Oh, I forgot to also mention that you're the author of this amazing book, Cheers to Chaos, which is what I was referring to, that your voice comes through. A subtitle, 8 Tools for the Puffy-Eyed and Powerful.
Thank you. Yeah. I'm excited to be here. I appreciate it.
Yeah. And you have a beautiful smile. So tell me about this journey from telling your doctor told you had an 80% chance of recovering the use of the right side of your face and not being able to smile.
Yeah.
And now
it was, so one of the big things about Bell's palsy is that about 40,000 people in America get it every year. Mm-hmm. So often people get it, sometimes from Lyme's disease. It's technically an inflammation of the C7 nerve that attaches to your cranial, what fires in the occipital bone to your face. Yeah. You imagine in our skull where your temple is, just pretend there's like this hole that the nerves couldn't fire, right? They're basically too inflamed. So all of a sudden I woke up paralyzed. You have to think about inflammation. It's basically dis-ease in the body. So sometimes when we're out of alignment or ease, inflammation comes up in many forms. Well, this was just so random for me because at the time I was 26, I was very, what I thought healthy as a yoga teacher and a personal trainer. And to go to the ER and a doctor tell me that, oh, there's a 20% chance that you'll be paralyzed the rest of your life. I'm like, wait. I didn't do anything to make this happen. Yeah. It wasn't like I got it in an accident or contracted something. Instead, it's a inflammation that we know over time, probably like stress happened, but you can never pinpoint exactly. Sure. And for me, vibrant with my smile, like you can see, I've got a big horse teeth, I've always had a big mouth and like big smile. And part of me is my smile. And the fact that I was stuck with no smile, my lips wouldn't move. They were stuck open. So when I ate or drank water, I had to close my lips and talk out of one side. Because when you're paralyzed, you can't purse your lips as well. So I couldn't say B or P or F sounds. And really annoyingly for me was that I couldn't close my eye. And I wear contacts. So I had to constantly put drops in my eyes with my glasses or just like eye patch it. Mm-hmm. In the process of this, it lasted about 6 months. Mainly the people that don't heal from it are older people with low immune systems, or the people that have gotten it from other ways, like Lyme's disease or an accident. But to just wake up one morning like that, it was pretty soul wrenching. And I had to decide for myself over the course of the healing process that if I was never going to heal, if I wasn't going to get better, could I have people know that I'm smiling without see my smile? Mm-hmm. Could they feel my smile from my body, or rather from my expressions, my actions, my words? Could my smile not just be something that people were looking at, but something that people were feeling? Mm-hmm. And I think we all go through that in our 20s, 30s, that like phase of life where you're trying to identify, you're trying to make a mark on the world. you're trying to not identify by your skin or what the outside looks like, but really make a deeper legacy. And whether it's Bell's palsy or it's people dealing, like I have a lot of clients that are in their 60s, dealing with the wrinkles and trying to get rid of that and all that. It's the same. It's us always trying to identify on the inside versus the outside. And so that became one of my biggest hurdles and awesome challenges in life is how can I continually make people feel my smile without actually using my mouth?
Wow, what a great lesson. And it sounds like you're able to embrace that rather than, sit in the adversity of, well, now half of my face is paralyzed and it's not looking good. And I didn't do necessarily anything to deserve this, but rather like, okay, well, how do I still express myself from the inside out? I love that. I love that approach. And this, so as I'm reading your book, what you're speaking to right now, something that comes through in your writing is this supreme confidence. And so I want to, if it's okay with you, I want to read just like a short little paragraph that really stuck out for me that speaks to this confidence. And so you say, facilitation is my lifelong masterclass. My brain gets a tiny tickle orgasm anytime I see a facilitator hold space like a boss. It's a beautiful recipe of giving them just enough to like you, a dab to be jealous of you, a teaspoon to laugh about with you, and a pinch of sarcasm. Masters at the craft can make anyone feel like they're the only ones being spoken to, and yet somehow simultaneously supported by the entirety of their peers there. And as a fellow yoga teacher and being in community with many yoga teachers, and I know like the background, the context of this particular thing that you're talking about is the stage at Wanderlust in Colorado. And like, what an amazing big stage to be on. So whenever I hear people talk about, like, number one, just getting up in front of a class to teach anything, let it be yoga or dance or movement or a lecture full of college students, I always think back to this joke that Jerry Seinfeld tells about how our biggest fear as humans is public speaking. So we would rather be dead. Like, our biggest fear is not death. We'd rather be dead than have to do some public speaking, right? And as you're talking about this, your lifelong masterclass facilitating basically public speaking, I wonder, is that something that has always come to you innately? Is it something that you have built up over, the practice of being a teacher, the practice of being in front of people? What is that? What would you attribute that to?
I know for a fact from having so many little cousins, I have 17 first cousins, and growing up around them, watching each of them like come out, let's say that 2 or 3 of them had the same parents, but such unique, different souls from the second they're out of the womb. Some wanted to be held. Some are so jovial. I was never that baby. There are babies that are like the little Buddhas. There's this happy presence about them. Then there's like the really contemplative, still like, oh, you see into my soul and you've been in this lifetime before.
Yeah.
I feel like all of us come in with a little bit of that. And I came out bossy. I came out bossing everybody around and trying to boss my cousins around in the play. The thing is, though, I never really found something that made me feel as good as yoga did. Like I played all the sports. I tried a year of field hockey. I tried a year of cheerleading. I tried, you just dabble because everyone else is doing it, but nothing. I'm not that athletic. Contrary to being a personal trainer, I'm not like team sports athletic. And I always kind of knew something was coming. I just didn't know what. And when I was in college and I found yoga, at first it was for physical fitness. And then it gave me this release because it's an individual experience, but within a group setting, because I love being around people. But as a practitioner, it's so wonderful to be sacredly only in competition, if you would, with yourself. Like you're the only person that really matters. And the more you advance into the practice, the more you know that no one else matters, even though it's nice to be in a room with people doing it. It's so an inward journey. And I've never felt something that made so much sense to me. And so I think the facilitator side of that came pretty naturally from something in me clicking, where I was like, this makes sense to my body and all the things that I'm a little bit more naturally good at. And I just wanted to be able to give that with the world. And so I went full time when I was 24. I did 2 years in nonprofits because my degree was in international business, but I was making like $45,000 a year asking everyone for $5 out of their paycheck to donate to the United Way, or like to donate to Susan G. Komen. And I believed in the charities, don't get me wrong. But at that point in my career, I was like, well, I'm probably going to make the same amount of money if I just try to teach full time and see what happens. This was 2010. And so I just ran with it. And because I loved so much of what I was doing, because I believe so much in what I was doing, I really think that that's a huge part. And because it fulfilled me in ways that I really needed fulfilling, things just started to open up. I never thought 15 years ago that I would have a yoga retreat company, or that I would have the opportunity to teach on bigger stages. That was never like a goal. I didn't even know that existed. I just kept doing things that felt good and saying yes to people in that high vibrational space. And doors started to open that I could have never imagined for myself. That's kind of like, you read the intro chapter. The intro of my book is a funny chapter because it's the most, I would say, real in your face, grotesque. It's like, if you like me, you like me. If you're not read past the intro.
Yes. I'm thinking back to a particular story at the very beginning.
Yes. And it's about like a happy endings massage, we'll just say. Yes. And the idea that it's not possible. I never thought it was possible for a girl. It never crossed my mind.
Yeah.
There's no way, until someone else had it happen. And I was like, I don't even believe it. But because it wasn't in my mindscape, it was nothing that was available to my small mind. And when those doors opened, things became possible, right?
Yeah. Isn't that how it works with idea? Yeah. I love that story. If you want to, dive into it, you can. But I would just say that when I read that, that was news to me too. So you opened a door for me as well, because I always think about these happy endings massage parlors as being kind of like, I have this judgment about it as being like this insidious place where gross kind of, and this is my own personal judgment. Oh yeah. No shame to anyone who that's, how you have a happy ending. But it's eye-opening to me to realize also that a woman can go and have a happy ending massage as well.
It was the perfect storm experience because I was desperately single for a very long time and had just come off a trip to Europe, leading a group where the girls got them in Europe. And I was like, you guys are totally lying. There's no way. There's no way. Like, it takes, my headspace can be so weird with a partner. There's no way. And the same massage place that I always go to every Monday night. Now, I knew it was a little on the seedier side because it's open till midnight and it was under our yoga studio. But I always paid for my $40 massage and got the same exact one every time. Yeah. I'd been there dozens of times. And this particular day, because the window had particularly opened in my mindscape, something was a little bit more sensual. And I was like, oh, what's happening here? And I couldn't have planned it. I couldn't have faked it. I mean, the way that it dropped into the world, and it was like business done as usual within 10 seconds. And then we leave the room. I'm like, oh my God, that only happened because someone opened that door for me. I would have never known that was possible. Now, Did they lose a regular client? Yes, they did, because I will never go back. But my favorite part too was that the Asian guy's name was Michael, and he gave me a punch card at the end, and he said the answer is free. I was like, wait, what?
Oh my goodness.
Fantastic. And that's what I mean. My life has been like, and as a facilitator, that love of watching people at their craft, people who are in love with what they do, that's what makes me come alive. To watch passion at play, whether you're a scientist who loves studying grasshoppers, whatever it is, I like to watch people who come alive
Yeah. Oh, I love that. Well, so tell me about Cheers to Chaos. In particular, I'm curious, without giving too much away, because obviously, like, you need to read the book to get the 8 tools. But I'm curious about the subtitle, 8 Tools for Puffy-Eyed and Powerful. So first of all, what was the impetus for writing this book?
I've always loved writing. Part of the reason why I feel like teaching a yoga class is so poetic, because we can infiltrate these bliss bombs almost like a long 60-minute poem. Mm-hmm. And I've always been wanting to write a memoir, and I've had a chapter here, a chapter there. And when I got my Bell's palsy, I kept thinking, okay, maybe this is like the universe's way of giving me the hardest lesson in order to write to the people who, like me, didn't identify completely without their looks, like depended a lot on their looks to get them to XYZ. And my mom had died when I was 14. So she died of breast cancer when she was 43. And so I felt like that already was something I was given, because I was a strong soul and I could move forward from it. I have a firm belief that when people are taken from us young, whether it's a child with cancer or, a freak accident, I like to believe, whether or not we know it's true, that person came into our lives, the soul chose that life to raise the compassion level of everybody else around them. So like my mom came in and she was a great mom to me for 14 years. I got 14 amazing years with a woman that left a deep imprint on me that I don't even know. And she enabled me, my brother, and my dad, and all of her family to live more appreciative of the life that they have. Doesn't mean that I don't want my mom back. I would trade it for anything to have her back and not feel this way or have this lesson. And when I get this opportunity to look at it and try to make the story work in my favor, because I'm the only one that's stuck in my head the rest of my life, I have to make the story, the narrative, be beneficial to me, or else I'll be a victim. And so when I look at it like that, I had my mom, I had this Bells, and then I had, like, to me, the trifecta, the guy I thought I was going to marry. We were living together. We were together for 6 years. We started to transition. And those 3 things were so soul crushing to someone who stands in front of 600 people a week and tells them how to live life happy and motivated and strong. And like, for me to be soul crushed by that, I knew that other people were very feeling alone in their experience of transition or heartbreak or loss. And so I was like, okay, over COVID, I had all the stories. I had snippets here and there, but being stuck in my home alone, I was like, okay, this is also the world telling you have nothing else to do but do this and write this. And so that was my pilgrimage back to my heart a little bit, saying, can I take these 3 parts of my life and make them so that when someone reads the book, they feel less alone in their own chaos? On my retreats, when people share stuff, we hold up an imaginary cup of whatever you like to drink, and we say, cheers, if you agree with the person. So that was where it kind of came from. Cheers to chaos. We are, every moment that I'm broken and I'm crying and speaking to my yoga class or whatever it is, that's when I'm puffy-eyed, but I'm also powerful, standing in that brokenness and still being a badass. Because all of us can feel all the things at once. We don't have to always be one feeling or not, but there's so much power in the sharing of that story. The book was written for the avatar, a girl named Ava, just, a young version, to feel less alone in their plight, to deepen the meaning of their purpose of who they are.
That's so beautiful. I love that so much. As you're talking, I'm getting a little bit, I guess, emotional. But just feeling like such a raw human story. We all have so many experiences. I think that can help us empathize with that experience of being brokenhearted and the broken badass, as you call it, which I love. You dedicate a whole chapter on let fucking go, and I'm putting that into quotes because it's your words, which I feel like is one of those things. In my life particular, I'm sure so many listeners out there can empathize with this, and all of your clients and students too. That feels like the hardest fucking thing to do ever, is to learn how to let fucking go. what would you say to someone who is learning how to let whatever it is go? A relationship that they've lost, a bad habit that they want to break, a narrative in their head that's not helpful anymore. What do you say to that?
At the time that I was writing this, and I'm sure it's people still say it, but like LFG, was a thing on Instagram, let's fucking go, like, let's rally. But I took out the S to make it say we really do have to let fucking go, because life is too short to be wrapped up in someone else's story. And let's take the example of the heartbreak and the loss of that partner who I had fallen so deeply in love with the potential of who we were and what we had built together, the life we had built, that I lost contact with what was actually happening between us. It wasn't ideal. Like we had lost some of that same lust or love. And I was so steadfast in trying to fix it and stick with it that I almost betrayed myself, not listening to how unhappy I was in that process of trying to fix us. And so the let fucking go in a breakup situation or a transition out of a partnership in any way or a friendship is asking yourself, is the narrative serving me right now? Because he was telling me in his own way exactly what he wanted. I just wasn't willing to listen, or I wanted it to be the potential of what I thought. And so we have to ask ourselves, in any situation that's causing us harm, you're the only person that's stuck in your head the rest of your life. Is this the thing that's happening? Is the story you're telling serving you or not? Because we have exponential. Okay, think about a bank account. If we they say with the S&P 500, if you put money in 40 years ago, between all the crashes, you'd still be up 10% from 40 years ago. That's how I feel about experiences that we've had. The short time I had with my mom, the months I dealt with paralysis, even the breakup, which it's been 5 years, but I still cry about. That sensation, even though it's not a good one, still, there's exponential return on the investment of what I learned. Everything we go through is like putting into the S&P 500 of our own self-worth. And all of those emotional things, the anger, the sadness, the hurt, the happiness, the love that we felt doesn't go away just because I broke up with that guy or because I lost my mom. Those things that I learned aren't lost. There's exponential return on the investment of what I put in to know myself more. So if that's the story that I tell myself, and I choose to keep narrating for myself and others so that we don't get stuck in the what ifs or the shouldas or if onlys, because that's a narrative that won't serve anybody, them and yourself. You have to give yourself the guidance to say, how can I look at this as it doesn't feel good? I'm not happy with the outcome, but in order to move forward, can I see that it was still an investment in who I am and learning more about myself?
Yeah. So true. Well, and that brings me to my next question, because I have this belief, and it seems like you do too, that in order to come out of something like that with the realization of I have learned something, I have exponentially grown, I have gained, not lost, you really have to learn how to sit with your discomfort. You have to learn how to sit in the sorrow, to sit in the pain. I think it's obvious to say that maybe it's not obvious. I shouldn't say that. Talk to me a little bit about why it's an important practice to sit in the discomfort, and also how is it done on a because we can say that all day long, but like, what does that really mean? Like, how is the how?
I have a huge chapter 5 it talks about this as a tool in a way that says, like, rock bottom cafe is what I call it. We sit there, and most people are not happy all the time. And that's the irony about my name. Originally, when Facebook came out and it was only for college emails, there was 14,000 Katie Burks. That's my last name. There's so many. And so because I moved to sunny Southern California and I was from New Jersey, I was not happy. I was sarcastic and crass, and everyone thought I was just so bitter. So on Facebook, I made my name Katie B Happyy to be the opposite, to like just be a crass asshole, essentially. it just kind of kept and it stuck. And people know me because it's a standout funny name, but it's almost a manifestation that came more into fruition because I've been out in California for like 15 years. And so I had to work my way into a space of a little bit more joy. My love language with my Jersey Italian family is making fun of each other. That's just it. Like, that's our love language. And so coming out of that, not that it's bad, that's a different way to express love, but that's not a Southern California, or I'd say West Coast way of expressing love. So over this journey of watching all of these people who I thought were fake, walking around with big smiles and some of them are, but a lot of them aren't. That was never my natural state. We talk about babies, like that was never who I was. I wasn't always the giggly, happy-go-lucky kid. I believe that each of us, pain is a part of life, discomfort, stagnation, stuckness, that's actually the norm. And on the days that we feel elated and happy, more than content, let's say, something more positive than content, that's something to celebrate. And I would say I only feel that once every like 2 or 3 days. It's my norm is knowing that all of the emotional spectrum is perfect and okay. And if I can't be happy in a situation, I can definitely create purpose and meaning out of it. So I don't have to be happy, but I can create meaning out of what's happening. Okay, if I'm stuck in traffic and I'm going to miss my next client, I am livid. I'm really angry inside. So one of the ways that I can sit there and not, speak to cars with my horn is sitting there saying, all right, I'm creating meaning out of this. If I had sped to my client, maybe I would have gotten in an accident that I don't know about. This is the universe telling me to slow down. And what can I learn from sitting here? What can I look around and see? Oh, let me give money to this person who's has a sign that just says, I'm just hungry, right? Like, obviously that happened to me this morning, so it's a little fresh, but being able to look up from my steering wheel, look out of my phone and just look around while I'm sitting there bumper to bumper and say, there must be a reason. I'm definitely not happy. I definitely didn't want this. My client's unhappy, but instead of sitting in all of that, can I create purpose and meaning out of what happened and rewrite the narrative in my head?
Yeah, that's beautiful. I love that. Tell me about what inner GPS means.
I'm pretty sure at some point I got this from my Swamiji in India. So I go there every year to Rishikesh for the International Yoga Festival, and I take a group. I'm lucky now to teach at the festival, and I'm the most Western teacher for sure. It's very more traditional, the different aspects, the different lineages that are there. But Swamiji, he calls it your inner God-powered source. So GPS is God-powered. Okay. I call it guidance-powered because my Catholic upbringing makes me scared of the word God, although I totally believe in spirit, universe, whatever you want to call it. The guidance-powered source for me is something that is not your heart, something that's not attached to the emotional center. It is a tiny, tiny voice. Even it's just like a little tug somewhere in you that knows that you need to change direction. It's not a billboard. It's not this, oh my God, red flag, go left instead of going right. It's this inner GPS that's saying, hey, you might want to slow down, or hey, there's a speed bump coming, like back up, or hey, don't go to that dinner, that person's not going to serve you, or hey, you should try that new class, that new teacher. There's like these little pulls, and the quieter we get, the more we can tune into it. Like those old school antenna rabbit ears on TVs. To get the signal. We have to clear out the signal sometimes so that we can get a little bit closer to that inner guidance source, the guidance powered source. Because when I was going through a lot of these tragedies and transitions, my heart was saying something so much different than that little inner GPS, your gut, your intuition, whatever you want to call it. It's always there, but we're not always willing to hear it. And I know Oprah said this. I'm going to misquote her, but Oprah is famous for saying something like, if you have to keep asking your friends for advice on the same issue, you're getting the answer from the universe. It's just not the answer that you want.
Yeah, I love that.
Right. So like I didn't want to break up with my partner. I didn't want to. I wanted to keep fighting for it. I kept asking people at the end what they thought that were close to me. Mm-hmm. And it was like, it's that funny thing, because it's like your last ditch effort to hold on to the answer that you want, even though deep down my GPS system was telling me it's time to change course.
Yeah. Yeah. So wise. Oh, and thanks for sharing the Oprah quote. I had forgotten about that one, but you're right. I love that. Such good advice. I'm curious if there's any, like, was there a favorite part of writing this book for you? Any favorite story or any favorite chapter or section or lesson?
So in all of this hopeful talk that we've been talking about the past 30 minutes, I think the most important chapter to me was the final one, chapter 8, which is about quarantine and me losing so much of my identity and the things that really grounded me. Mm-hmm. Leading international retreats, traveling always regrounded me back to who I am and into gratitude. Leading big public classes weekly, seeing hundreds of people, that always regrounded me. That was my energy source. But having that all stripped away as a single girl alone in my house, it was I had to take a big look, like I'm sure a lot of people did, at a different part of what we were used to. Mm-hmm. And I was feeling pretty low August of 2020 and not myself. I mean, I was back to drinking like I was in college again with 3 single friends, right? Because we had nothing else to do. And it was soul crushing. And so I remember feeling not sexy, not good, not happy with myself, but I had to make a shift. I was typing this journal entry I had an online boot camp going. Mm-hmm. And I said to them, I don't feel miraculous. I don't feel like anything that I'm preaching to you guys, like in these Monday mantras or whatever. I don't feel everything feels fake. I feel stuck. I feel isolated. And I also feel numb. Mm-hmm. But I feel like this stuckness, there's no way out besides shifting to something else, even if it's fake when I try it. So there was this hot guy that was working out down the street, like across the street every day in his driveway with kettlebells. I was like, okay, by the end of this week, I don't feel sexy at all. I'm not confident, but I'm going to ask him out. And I said it out loud to them. I said, you guys, you have to hold me accountable. I'm going to go talk to him. And they're all like, do it now. And I'm like, no, I can't do it now. No, I can't do it now. Not 20 minutes later, did another hot guy run up my driveway. I'm not kidding you. And my driveway is like 2 car lengths because I live in a back house by the beach. So it's all the way back. Like it was not an easy walk for him to come up the driveway. And he's like, hey, I'm so-and-so. Do you want to work out with me tomorrow? And I'm like,
where did you come from?
To a new human in 6 months. Right? And I had just said to the group, I need to pivot course. I'm stuck. I was like, I'm going to be brave and I'm going to ask kettlebell guy out. I could not make this up. 20 minutes later, this guy walks up my driveway and asks me out. It was not the fact that I needed a guy in my life. It was that all of a sudden the universe, I said, I'm ready to do something different. Mm-hmm. And it dropped in, it responded, but you have to like make that shift. Mm-hmm. And I'm talking like the first 6 months I was dating this guy in COVID. And that's if you only see one person for 6 months, it's a pretty intense relationship. Yeah. I still was numb, not myself, not putting anything into it like I would have, still missing my ex in certain capacities and just sitting in my own story. But it's almost like the fog would only lift unless I started something else. It didn't feel like the relationships I've had before at first. It wasn't even exactly what I would have manifested, but because I just kept saying yes in the discomfort, in not feeling 100%, not feeling myself, then something shifted. And I think that's really important for us to remember. You're never going to be 100% ready to do the things that you want to do. You're never going to feel perfectly like fit or sexy or hopeful or confident. You're never going to. So you just have to take the leap or make a little shift in your life tell the world you're ready, and then be open for signs and signals that might drop in. Mine was very literal. That was hilarious. And that was the last chapter of my book about the courage that it took for that guy to walk up the driveway and ask me out. Mm-hmm. But also remembering that being stuck is not necessarily a bad thing. It's just the universe asking you to pivot course, right? Mm-hmm. One of the favorite things I like to say when people are burning in a yoga class is I'll say, the best things form under pressure. Olives have to be crushed to form olive oil. Grapes have to be pressed to form wine. Diamonds form under pressure. And some seeds are planted in the dark when they start before they can grow. So even the most beautiful things in the course of life only blossom or come forth after moving through pressure, being crushed, or being pressed, right? Yeah. And that's what I don't want people to listen to this and feel like, oh, she's so happy-go-lucky like a yoga teacher. No, I'm very brutally honest where I'm not happy most of the time. But I do believe that if we can just take a chance on ourselves and keep saying, I'll try something else, it is worth it at the end.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Thank you. Oh, I love that so much. I keep saying that. It's like my mantra. I love that so much. So here's my call to action for listeners. Pick up this book. It is hilarious. Katie, your enthusiasm and your storytelling ability is just great. So you say, read it for a laugh, read it to feel lighter, and also read it to remember the profound and fundamental truth that you are not alone. All of these things are so true. Katie, I couldn't feel more honored and just, it's been a short time, but I feel like through your writing and through this short conversation that your real spirit comes through. So thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and your grace with us. We're grateful for you. Anything else you want to add before we say goodbye?
Yeah. A part of what I do in my mom's memory is lead free retreats for cancer survivors. Mm-hmm. And so this will be the 8th annual coming up this year. If anyone's interested in self-development retreats, they're back in, hopefully keep going, South Africa, Mexico, Italy, India, Thailand. I have those all on the docket. But also, if you know a cancer survivor that doesn't need a doctor, but also really needs to figure out what's next in their life and wants a free retreat, go to my website and put in their thing for the application. Mm-hmm. It's my pride and joy to be able to give that to people who would never normally spend the money themselves on a healing weekend retreat. Mm-hmm. And my company's Be Inspired. So it's beinspired.life. On Instagram, it's Be Inspired Life. And then, Katie B Happyy on Instagram.
Thank you, Katie. We appreciate you. Thank you for that generous offer. I'll definitely link all of that in the show notes so people can easily find you, click on it, and join you on retreat. That sounds amazing.
Thanks.
Well, everyone, that concludes another amazing episode of Outside the Studio. I hope you enjoyed yourself. I hope you learned something new, maybe remembered something old, maybe felt inspired to apply something to your life. You can hear my dog in the background. She's doing a little happy dance. So Daisy enjoyed it. Anyhow, I wanted to just pop in here to wrap us up to say a couple of things. Number one, I have such an amazing team that helps me put these podcasts together. Without them, I wouldn't, be able to bring these amazing conversations to you. So thank you to my producer, my director of creative services, my sound editor, my engineer, Consistency Media. Don't know what I would do without you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And the amazing creation and artistic musical genius, Drew Lovern. Thank you so much for putting together this music specifically for Outside the Studio. So unique to the show, only place you're ever going to hear it is right here. Thanks, you guys. You make my world go round. Stay well, everyone. Thank you for listening. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review, share on the socials, especially if it's a show that you think, hey, this could help somebody else. That's what this is all about, right? We're sharing information so that we're better, so that we're inspired, so that we're lifting each other up, and we're learning how to be in this world, living on this planet to the best of our ability, sharing information and inspiring one another. And that's my hope. That's my hope for the show. Take care.